Never, yeah, no.
Into it.
Mm-hmm. I relate.
I do like 2 hours and then I'm like, okay.
Yeah. All right. You get done. Get live. Okay. Oh, woo. We're good. Okay. For those who are watching on Facebook and Insta, welcome. We are doing a live recording for the Spirituality of Strength Training podcast. Before we jump in and dive into the questions, you get to see a little bit behind the scenes of what I do with my guests, what I call the podcast pause. So we're going to just kind of take a couple deep breaths to make sure we are in our bodies. So if you're watching, you can join along. If you guys feel comfortable, you can close your eyes, or if not, keep them open. And just take a breath in, feeling the body, and slowly exhale, letting go of any nerves, taking another breath in, inhaling wisdom and insight, exhaling, letting go of any self-doubt. Taking another breath in. And the air moves throughout the whole body. And exhaling and simply being. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. Yes. If you are listening, here we have 3 other guests with me today who have all been on the show. So just let you go around and introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and then we'll dive into the concept and the theme about fall, fitness, and forgiveness. Reita, you want to start?
Sure. Reita Johnson, a professional certified life coach and trauma-informed wellness practitioner. So I work with people around learning how to love themselves, learning how to take care of themselves, and healing trauma and moving forward.
I'm Besty. I am the founder of the Well Round. It's a self-massage system, and it's a guided mobile app partnered with some therapy balls that are made specifically for our tissues to get in there and relieve all those places of tension and holding and discomfort that can accumulate from a number of things. And of course, we'll be talking about the importance of forgiveness and that intersection today. So I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Yeah. I guess I'll introduce myself too. Yeah. So, most of you guys know me. My name's Anna Willard. I'm a kettlebell coach, a movement nerd on a mission to bring you hope through our health. I'm mainly working with getting clients into their body and breath with the tool to kettlebell. Awesome. So then we have Stacey.
Hey, I'm Stacey Sorgen. I am an integrative wellness coach. I'm a personal trainer, the owner of Stacey Sorgen Coaching and Mod Body Fitness, a local gym in Seattle. And my whole goal is to help people find the strength to be themselves.
Love it.
Yeah, be yourself.
Yeah. Awesome. So we have one other episode that's going to be talking about forgiveness that will come out next Sunday. But one of the things I've been asking more this time around is how do you define forgiveness?
How do you define forgiveness? being able to move forward doesn't mean that you've forgotten, but you've not held on to it. You've not allowed it to stop who you are or live in your body or any of those things that forgiveness can do or can be.
Anyone else?
The things that came to me are like acknowledgement, education, and grace. Like, I feel like it's difficult for us to let go unless we've acknowledged it, thanked it, let it move on, grew from it, and just had some grace around maybe that was a mistake, or maybe that was, maybe it was something I had to do in order to grow.
I love that. I mean, I feel like all of these use slightly different words to embody what you've already said, but to feel it and digest it and then to release it so that you can be free and like ultimately who you are whole without that piece being deducted.
I love how you brought up grace. And I don't think grace is really spoken enough about within this concept of forgiveness. I think a lot of times we focus on, at least the conversations that I have had, we focus on anger and this grieving process. But grace and joy, I think, are like the result of it or the benefit that we get from it. Do you guys have anything to add about grace and joy through this process of forgiveness?
I just think it's more of a liberation to our natural state. And our natural state is full of grace and joy.
Think about forgiveness in like personal context, things that I've had to work through forgiveness on.
Yeah.
And thinking about forgiveness that clients have gone through. And I think that through it, there does tend to be grace for what happened and what came out of what happened.
How do you guys define grace?
Well, previous to this, that same topic kind of ties into what I think grace is. I think that some of the heaviest things that we can carry as people is judgment, grudges, the shoulda, woulda, couldas, like all that stuff. And I think that can be tied into judgment around other people or judgment about ourselves. And grace is allowing ourselves to like let it go. To like let it go and still love ourselves through that process. And they have faith that we have learned. that we have learned.
You bring up so many good words. Couple of words for me that jumped out was like this faith. And with faith also comes into this concept of trust. And one of the other guests who was on earlier, I asked the question of like, when forgiveness is a concept of letting go, but there's also this concept of holding on to something while you let go. And her answer was self-trust. And I'm curious of how self-trust goes into the practice of this self-love.
A lot of times, especially working with people that have experienced trauma, being in your body, embodying who you are, embodying your body is really difficult.
Yeah.
So there's a level of trusting that you'll be able to handle what comes up. There's a level of this feels really overwhelming, and instead of shutting down or instead of doing any of the other coping mechanisms or habits or behaviors or patterns that we have done in the past, there's a level of trust that you have to have with yourself that I can handle this as intense as it feels. I got this.
What But it feels overwhelming though for clients who feel like that weight of it. Is it too soon for them to kind of go through that process, or is there a gauge? I know just even in my own healing practice, there's been times where it feels too much, too soon, and my mind thinks of it in the realm of like strength training, of like I lifted too much too soon, and now I'm hurt. Is there a path, or is that concept similar to this, to what you're referring to?
Yeah, and that's really between the practitioner and the client to really be able to gauge that. Yeah. There are times where we think that we may not be able to handle it, yet if we're held in brave enough space, I try to get away from saying safe space, but if we're held in brave enough space, we can. And then there are times where it would be too much. So there is a line for that, and it really is between the practitioner and the client to move themselves to trust themselves.
Going off of that, I know we talk a lot about the embodiment and feeling the emotions within the body. What are some signs for people who are just starting to get into the body when it feels like they're kind of challenging themselves in that realm of diving into this practice of forgiveness and letting go, to where it's almost too much too soon? How can they kind of gauge for themselves? Again, my mind goes to weight training of like they'll grab onto the weight and even try to pick it up right away, and they're like, no, this is too much, and they back up and maybe take another step back. What are some of the guidelines that you guys give your clients to kind of have that self-trust and really be in their body? Great question.
I can answer. I can start first. Mindfulness is important. Being aware of where you are before you even start the practice. If we are in a space of we can't even recognize that we're breathing, we don't even have that anchor to try to do further work, that's an obvious gauge. It's just too much. So really being mindful of the space that you're in, the state that you're in.
Totally. And like kind of the analogy that you've been using with weight training, I think can apply here, like building trust with anybody in relationship. Like you start small and you build up. And so I think the same is true for ourselves, and slowly over time increasing the difficulty to the point where like, okay, I got this, I know I can handle this, and you're being held in community or brave space where you're supported in that work. And then of course, like looking at the whole picture, like day to day ebbs and flows are gonna happen with your social life, with your hormones, with what you've just experienced being out in the world. And so what might be digestible and manageable one day, even, though you work up to it, might not be the next, because they just right? Like, I totally killed this last week. How come I can't do this today? So I think just like having that mindfulness and that sensitivity and that awareness of, there's so many factors that play. And we just have to kind of show up for ourselves with our capacity in each given moment.
And I'm so grateful that you brought up that, because it is true, even with strength training, there's days where I'll have like a great PR, even clients, and then the next day they can't do anything, and it's just like, okay, did they get enough sleep or anything like that? And the same thing with like the mental and emotional body. Some days we can handle a lot, other days we can't. And I think this is where your point comes into play about the grace aspect, of giving yourself that self-grace and acknowledging that this is heavy and I can't lift this today, and that's okay. And being like, today's not the day. I don't know how many times I've used that in my own practice of like, today's not the day, but there will be a day.
For people who are really, I don't know, like they want to be able to quantify it's for some reason like how they're feeling, right? Like feelings are too ethereal for me. I give them like a system from 1 to 10. Where is your energy level today? How are you feeling in your body? Like, what is going on with you? And that might be the very first time that day that they went, oh, how am I? Am I tired? What's going on at work? And so typically they'll share a little bit more of what's going on. But I have a really fantastic person that I work with in particular who comes and works out with me first thing in the morning. And on the days when she meditates, before she comes into her appointment, I know she is like so in her body and so set. And on those other days, she seems confused. Like, what's going on today? What are we doing? She's like very reactive to the world rather than proactive. And so at the beginning of the workout, I always try to build that proactive feeling. Like, I'm in charge of this. I get to set what I'm going to do based on what my energy level is. I get to own that and then go from there, rather than ever feeling like they have to do something or they're, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, there's no obligation to lift today what you did last week. Like, go based off of how you're feeling today. Yeah.
I know even for my, like, being in the strong force, the kettlebell realm, I put a lot of pressure on myself. I have to be able to lift so much. How do you help clients let go of, like, expectations of what people think, or their community or their family? They get a lot of questions with clients, even of just like they want to have like a job change, or they want to take a step back within their career. And then it's like, one thing I haven't mentioned, like, it's a breathing year. It's okay to have like a breathing year to give yourself that time of rest to move forward, or and it doesn't matter what other people think, it's making sure you honor them. But how have you helped your clients honor where they're at without that external world enforcing them?
Practice.
Yeah.
Practice. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I love that you mentioned meditation, because I think that's huge, is mindfulness. And I think sometimes we have an idea of what things are. We have an idea of what meditation is. And so we have this adverse reaction to it, or we have an idea of what yoga is, and we really miss the key elements of it. Helps you ask yourself these questions of, how am I actually feeling? What sensations am I feeling? So using mindfulness practices is key, and finding the ones that work for everyone, because we're all different in what works for us. So building that awareness of what you actually feel in your body and connecting it to what you believe, and then asking those questions of, where did that thought come from? Where did that belief come from? And then we start to do some mindset or some belief work around whose beliefs are you carrying with you, and is that true? Could there be another truth somewhere in there? And just really help differentiating between what's yours and what's not yours. So mindfulness and
Give me goosebumps.
But you bring up a good point about how meditation can be different. And I know you mentioned, I mean, we like to move. We all like to move. As we were setting up, we're like, well, how are we going to sit in this tight spot? We like to move, right? Even movement can be a meditation. Do you have anything to add on that? I know.
Very much. I mean, I don't honestly remember what I said.
I know.
But for me, I find meditation in so many different ways, and I very much support anybody in exploring what works for them. And so, obviously one of my favorites is Well-Round, because that is a way to very much be in our bodies through sensation and through just this moment experience, and awareness of breath and change that's happening. And I find that is a very easy way for folks that maybe have not tried meditation before, or have and are a little turned off by it or freaked out by it, to get a lot of the benefits that are there in a more traditional
Yeah.
meditation practice in another way. And of course, that's not the only way. Like for me today, my meditation was going on a hike and being in nature. And sometimes it's taking a hot bath. Sometimes it's cuddling with my cat. Like meditation is really, you know, my perspective, a single point of awareness that brings us into ourselves in the moment with what is, right? And so that can be so many things.
Yeah. Well, my question is just like, do you think meditation is just being in the present moment? I know, like with sitting meditation, your mind can be rolling of just like almost like this detoxification of all the thoughts and just like this dump. But I know when there's been times of for myself of just like movement practice of a meditation. I think you mentioned before, just like how doing dishes can be a meditation. Like, as long as you're fully present in that state, we can create a meditation art to life.
It's a choice, right?
Yeah.
Like staying present and continuing to remake that choice.
And I think that goes into this concept of forgiveness of like, it's a choice. It's a constant choice. It's not one time we just forgive and be like, okay, we're done.
If only.
Right.
Sign me up.
What, in your own practices, what has been challenging with forgiveness?
I think the constant, like it's never done, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, I have a decent framework for that in terms of all wellness practices, right? They have to be ongoing. It's not enough to just drink water one day or sleep one night. Like I have to keep doing that. And forgiveness is like that. And I think that because it's so challenging, it's something that I would like to be able to do and be done with, right? But I'm not. And it's a lot of times like 2 steps forward and 5 steps back. And, you know, it's that kind of back and forth, especially, you know, like oftentimes the people that we're forgiving, like they don't stop offending, or they, you know, they can trigger us in different ways, and those triggers remain even though forgiveness has happened. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's just like the ongoing nature of it that is challenging for me.
I have to agree. And it's, for me at least, it's more like that mental, more meditation awareness of like forgiving that thought, not necessarily forgiving that person, but forgiving that thought that passed through the mind about that person who did that wrong to me, and freeing my mind up to see that love within that person versus holding that grudge. Do you guys have anything to add to that, like the mental aspect of forgiveness?
Being where you are, we were talking about grace for myself,
Yeah.
for being in that space, grace for myself for the thoughts that come up. Yeah.
I think it's, I don't know who wrote that quote, but it was like having resentment or like a grudge is like giving someone free like rent in your mind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The more you hold on to it, the more that you just continue to hurt yourself, because that person is continuing with their life like completely unaware of how affected you are since like they've moved on after whatever they did. But personally, I have a lot of difficulty with, you know, you juggle so many different balls as like an entrepreneur, as a coach, as a friend, as a daughter, as, you know, all the different things. And it's not worrying about, oh my gosh, what if I drop one? It's, okay, which ones am I going to drop? And knowing that we can't be 100% perfect 100% of the time. Having grace for that, I think. And then, you know, forgiveness, like, did the best I could with what I had when I had it. Yeah.
Dropping the stories. I don't know about you all, but I'm real good at making those stories in my head. So reminding myself, okay, this is a story, and coming back to presence of what's really going on here, and being able to sit with that and grace, forgiveness and all of these things,
Cheers.
self-awareness.
That's too good. So my mind thinks of like with the fitness aspect. There's been too many times, unfortunately, in my training regimen that I have overtrained, and I have to take like a big step back. Is there anything like that with forgiveness? Of like you over forgive, and then you get hurt in the process of that?
I think sometimes we think that forgiveness equates to accepting. Forgiveness equates to still having that person in our life and allowing them to do the same thing over and over and over, and they're different. And what was your question again? I'm sorry, I forgot.
It's, can we over forgive in a way that's harmful to ourselves?
So I over forgiveness in that way of not being able to separate forgiveness versus, okay, and now what's the next step? Or how can we repair this relationship? And we repair this relationship? What does that look like? What do I need for me to be able to show up as well as the other person?
I think that's the tricky aspect of not just forgiving and having that forgiveness be a practice of self-love, but when we have forgiven someone and having that self-respect and making sure it's not necessarily their acceptance of forgiveness, but not tolerating the harm.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're meaning by the acceptance aspect, not accepting the harm that they continue to do, not even realizing it. And you brought up in our last podcast about the calling in versus calling out. Can you share a little bit what the calling in is versus the calling out?
Yeah, I mean, I think that confrontation is really hard. Being honest and authentic with one another is something that a lot of us hide from. And I think that there are more, there's more than one way to do that. And that calling out is kind of accusatory and creates separation, whereas calling in is more of an invitation to the conversation and to the experience that I have experienced, and then trying to find space to collaborate within that and to make adjustments, as opposed to, pushing someone away and putting up walls. It's more like, okay, let's look at the situation now and my reality. And of course, it works great if there's a dialogue, and then you can collaborate on, okay, moving forward, the relationship for me to feel healthy and safe and, in my integrity requires this, this, and this. What does it require for you? Let's try this.
When you go ahead.
I was going to say, unhealthy to me would feel like just blind, forgiveness. All the things I just, not wanting to go deep with it. And the other one, I think, is having that dialogue and then being like, hey, that's cool, we're fine. Here's my boundary. Just so you know, I'm going to be clear about it. If you ever approach that boundary again, I'm going to let you know, because last time it really hurt me. And setting clear boundaries with people, I think, is important to keep us from that over forgiveness or feeling later, what's the word, resentful, right?
I think it's really important to know that we can forgive without it being a delete all button. Stupid, right? We have to be able to accumulate wisdom and self-care and self-protection tools in a way that are going to work for us moving forward, and ultimately for the other person too, right? If there's a maladaptive pattern that is showing up relationally, that is not healthy for either party. And so in creating those boundaries, it can be helpful, I think, for those of us who tend to maybe want to be a little bit too permeable with our boundaries to know that like it's also doing that favor.
Yeah. It's almost asking them to level up, like, please respect me or whatever the situation may be, but it's asking, you're setting that standard of this is how I should be treated as a human being. This is how I expect to be treated. I respect you this way, and this is how I treat you. Please do the same. And it's this commonality of self-love and love for other. And I know, Rita, you've talked a lot about codependency. I feel like sometimes codependency, forgiveness can get mucky into codependency. Sometimes in a way that almost brings up playing victimhood. And we ask for forgiveness and we fall into this role of victimhood when asking forgiveness versus giving forgiveness. Do you understand the difference in what I'm saying here? Elaborate. So sometimes with like when you ask to be forgiven versus just mentally that mental self-practice of respecting that other person, mentally knowing that you have forgiven them versus going and seeking forgiveness. And how does that go into play with codependency and victimhood? I know that's a lot right there.
I'm going to have to sit with this for a minute and get my thoughts together on that one.
Okay. I have a thought about what you're talking about. I have a really fantastic coach who was a psychotherapist and related to business. She talks about codependency, and she describes it as a tennis court. And there's one person on one side of the court and another person on the other side of the court. One of those ways of asking for forgiveness, you have to stand on your own darn side of the court and just be like, maybe you'll volley that over to me, maybe not, right? Like, I just have to live with whatever your choice is. And the other feels like you slammed down your racket, you went over to the other side of the court, and you're like, forgive me now. Like it feels like trying to take ownership over somebody else, or perhaps they're trying to take it from you rather than allowing you to make that choice of your own free will. Does that?
Yeah, it's an independent thing. I think forgiveness is very independent. And when we are sitting with waiting for someone or hoping that someone will forgive us, or do they we're kind of like in this space that is a level of codependency. It's a very personal thing.
Yeah. What's the I understand what you're saying about like waiting for like someone did me wrong and I'm waiting for them to ask for forgiveness and not my forgiveness. What's the difference though of like you asking someone for forgiveness? If you recognize someone that you hurt someone, you go and ask for forgiveness. And I only say this just because of my own personal experience. Sometimes when I ask for forgiveness, my mind goes into this victimhood of woe is me versus that mental practice of forgiveness, of just treating them through forgiveness. Does that make sense? Do you understand my question?
I think so. But it's still, to me, it's still very personal. It's still this is how I think of it. So I come to you, I've already done my work around forgiveness, and I'm coming to you with grace and with love and openness, humbly. Whether or not you choose to forgive me is really out of my hands because I've done my forgiveness work.
No, I think what you're saying is just not having the expectations of it from the other person. Because I think sometimes with the household that I grew up in, it was like we're taught you need to go ask for forgiveness and not the person will forgive you. And I think that trains our mind to, when we ask for forgiveness, that we are expecting forgiven. And sometimes that outcome isn't the case.
Expectation is I just had this conversation around the dinner table. I got asked a question, and I said, yeah. And so the response was, oh, I wasn't expecting you to say yes. And so I say you asked the question with an expectation. So I think sometimes we go into forgiveness, like you said, with this expectation.
Yeah. We're going to shift gears a little bit. A couple of guests who've been on the show earlier, anger has been like a big theme about forgiveness. Anger can be like a very strong emotion. It can spark a lot of good things out of anger. You guys have mentioned a brave space versus a safe space. I don't know if even if this is a question or just a topic that I kind of want to shift gears towards with this concept of forgiveness. I mean, forgiveness is a process of grieving, and anger can sometimes mask that. What's the importance of moving through our anger to grieve, to be able to forgive?
These are some heavy questions.
I know. You get to go open on the toe. You should know I ask these big questions.
Anger is one of those like I forget what it's like, secondary emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to move through it because there's typically something underneath, and a lot of times it's hurt. That inner child is needing some love and attention. I think that sometimes when we sit with the anger, we also have other like loneliness comes up sometimes. And we're not going to know that until we sit with it, because as it we feel.
I know for me, anger has lived in my body in a very guarding way. And I think that's where I'm such a fan of like the self-massage tissue work, because when I was water skiing competitively, I needed my body to be healthy and strong. One of the reasons why I kind of fell into that is just a lot of injuries, right? I was like, oh, I gotta take care of my body. But there'd be so many times where I'd be laying on the floor, rolling out my chest or my hips, and then all of a sudden tears would come, and I didn't really I had no idea. I just thought it was so painful. Like I was
That too.
But now I find myself, there's a lot of times where I know I'll resist that type of practice because I don't want to jump into the emotions of it. And I know there's a lot of times, even with leading up to this, I really haven't really marketed it that well, just because doing any type of work with this, I'm like, oh shit, I have a lot of work stuff that I still have to do. And that's, it bubbles up a lot of things, even for me personally.
Yeah.
So how does anger live within the body? I know I think it can live in different ways versus just that muscle memory.
I'm not answering.
Oh yeah. You're just right across with me, so it's easy to like get that eye gaze, like.
Sure. Okay.
I think that, we are ultimately energetic beings, right? And that what manifests can manifest in every layer, in every part of our bodies. And so it's all interconnected. And that's kind of the big answer. I think that everything is affected by everything and affects everything. And so to try to pinpoint or slice it apart doesn't really work for my friend. Yeah, my understanding of human beings. Yes, it absolutely lives in our tissues and we can feel it in tension, but it's going to affect our blood pressure, it's going to affect our sleep, it's going to affect our hormonal balance, and then all of these things are going to interact as well. So it's pretty difficult for me to turn off that scientific brain and try to say it's just in one part of the body.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
It manifests
in different ways.
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly going to impact things, that maybe we wouldn't think would be associated, eating disorders or cancer or overall immunity and health. Like, it's all interconnected. And so, I think having anger and showing up for it and feeling it and moving through it is an essential process. But like anything else that stagnates, if you sit in it too long, it becomes poison, right? And so it's something that we need to show up for in a really mindful way and like ready to do the work, but not to take on as a lifestyle.
I think the body can give us cues. It is all so interconnected. There are cues that can help us try to pinpoint or head into the direction of addressing some of the anger that we've been holding on to, or addressing some of the things that we may have repressed. So doing the body work and really paying attention can open the door to that healing.
Yeah, I think the emotions that we have, if we're not freely talking about them, if we're not giving ourselves or other people forgiveness, if we're going through frustration and not having moments of like meditation where we allow ourselves to like talk some of those deeper, scary things, like how I view the body is that we just keep pushing things down. We keep pushing things down. And we can recognize those things or that anger bubbling up when all of a sudden it's to the top. And we get frustrated in the car, or we are doing something like rolling and all of a sudden tears, or we're doing camel pose and yoga and all of a sudden it's weeping. Whenever we have that quiet moment right before bed, or when we're in the shower, or when we're like drinking a little coffee and we're like, oh, no, like I need to get on my cell phone, I need to talk to somebody, or I need to put on the TV, I need to occupy. I think that those are all very like visceral signs that we need to let go. Do you feel that too? Yeah.
I think there's so many ways that we can reach for something to meditate or numb ourselves. And we have to, first make that choice to want to be aware of what those things are and then do the work of actually not.
Yeah. And it could be sneaky, I think. I think in the podcast that we did, I talked about how sometimes, I think I'm kind of like an intuitive person, but I just read people well, and once you get to know them pretty well, you're like, something's up with me today, right? So I'll suggest something like, let's slam some ropes. Like, let's just do that. Like, let's do some ball slams. And they'll say, well, like, how many? And I'll say, well, as many as you need. And, they start slamming, and then it like starts to bubble up, and then there could be tears or yelling. And then they get through that, and then they're like, how did you know I needed that? I felt so much better. And I was like, you were just giving me all the signs. I was just reading from you kind of and hoping that I was following you in what you might need today. So I think that sometimes that physical manifestation of like letting it out can be really good.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That's why I think body work and building awareness of being in your body, what sensations actually feel like in your body, like just getting ready to spend time with you, feeling that here and knowing what that feels like and what have I labeled it as before and what would it be. Just having this awareness, okay, this is muscle tension, but is it stress or is it I'm tired? So I think it's so important as we work with our clients to build that awareness, because then they know, hey, I need ropes for in hours. And then they're able to, okay, I really want to disconnect, and this is what's going on and why I want to do that, because we so often just mindlessly disconnect because we don't have this body awareness of what it is we actually need.
I love that you said, what did I label this as before? Like, oh, I'm hungry, or I'm frustrated, or I'm stressed, or like this, this neck pain, I probably just slept weird. It's not like that you're working 70 hours a week and that, we always want to make it like not something that we have to fix. Like, oh, I slept weird. I can't fix that, and digging deeper is really tough. Calling things out for what they really are.
But I think you bring up a really good point. I think so many times we see that just like that surface level, like, oh, I slept wrong. But why did you sleep wrong?
Yeah.
Are you stressed? Are you anxious? And it's really being able to dive into that deeper level of what's keeping you up at night or what's keeping you restless. So I think sometimes we get to that compartmentalize. There you go. Too much in our life, and we don't see the interconnection of things and how they have this ripple effect into the physical being and how the physical being is such a, I'm going to say an alarm system, but a communication aspect to us of how to really stay true to ourselves.
We wait until we're on our deathbeds or until it's been chronic, and then we go to the doctor about shoulder pain, but it's really not about shoulder pain.
Yeah.
It's really about all of these other emotions and all of these other things and all of these other stressors that we haven't really addressed. And here's the manifestation.
Yes.
It doesn't come out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
There are so many warning signs. Our bodies are so intelligent and always wanting to communicate with us. We just have to learn how to listen and put it to work.
And I think listening is such an art. What are ways that you help clients to listen to their bodies? I know, for me, I really just help them find their breath. We've all mentioned the breath work. But a lot of clients will learn a new movement and they're holding their breath for their whole life, their life depended on it. And I'm like, yeah, breathe, it's okay. What are some ways that people can learn how to listen to their bodies? Because we live in a world that, we can numb that inner voice so quickly.
Yeah. Well, I came from a background in a hospital, kind of working in patient advocacy and telling people, and I continue to tell people, you are the foremost authority on your body and how you feel in your body. And when people come to me and they're like, just tell me what to do, just tell me what to do. Yep. Fix it. I'm like, that would be awesome, and I would be a millionaire if I could tell you that. But it's really the deeper work. So I do little reminders on a daily basis, what is your energy level from 1 to 10? How are you feeling in your body today? What's going on with you? What's up? And then, during the warm up or something like that, I just try to dig kind of deeper and try to ask the right questions to help them make the connections about what's going on in their life. I try not to give a lot of advice. It's just questions. I'm just curious. And then all of a sudden there's those light bulb moments of oh, you know what? I just realized I only slept 5 hours a night for the last 3 nights. Maybe that's why I don't feel so great and why I don't have a ton of energy. So helping them make connections about things that they're doing and then the result, how they're feeling. And I think that helps them just be a little bit more in touch with their body.
I echo that.
Yeah.
I think so much of it is asking questions that people wouldn't normally think to ask of their experience and of their body. And that just really opens that inner dialogue for them to self-explore and to start to build knowledge and understanding and trust within themselves. Because, ultimately, as someone working in the wellness industry, I don't consider myself a teacher or a healer, but really just someone that tries to pass the baton of curiosity and self-empowerment.
I love that you mentioned that. That's every single session, no matter how many times I've seen it, that's my first reminder to them is I don't have your answers. I'm here to facilitate. I'm here to hold space for you, but I'm not here to give you your answers. I love that you mentioned that.
Oh, I think that related.
Soaking all the good information.
Related to helping people connect with their bodies. Is often people come in with goals that are really far outside of themselves. And I always try to tie them back to intrinsic goals. Like, what is your deep down thing that if you didn't make that thing or you didn't do that thing, like you wouldn't be able to live with yourself. I think that's like an intrinsic goal is like that deep. It's not like, oh, I want to look like this for my 20-year high school reunion. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why? Because of other people? That's extrinsic. We want to go for an intrinsic goal. And the question of like, why? why? All of a sudden they're like, I just want to be able to put my grandson on my shoulders, or I just want to be able to like carry all the groceries in at one time. Like, you know, it's totally different from what they think. And I think that helps them to connect with their body a lot more.
What do we do to help clients connect with their bodies?
Yeah.
So funny enough, my clients actually aren't calling me to connect with the body. They're calling me because they're like, I have all this crap going on in my relationship, or I hate my job, or, you know, things like that. So one of the things that I like to do, and we use this in somatic experiencing, is to just call out, like, notice what that feels like. So as we're talking and we're just talking about what happened that triggered you or got you upset, or what was the argument about. So as I'm listening and I'm watching and I'm tracking, I'm also noticing changes happening in the client's body. And so I'm calling their attention to it, because more than likely they don't have attention to that. So I'm just saying, hey, notice your breathing right now. Or, hey, do you feel yourself in your seat right now? What does that feel like? What do your feet feel like on the ground right now? So just notice that. Does it have a color? Does it have a shape? What sensations are coming up for you? That's it, just outside of breath work. That's something that I found really helps to build awareness. Being in our bodies, who we are.
Real quick, for those who may not be familiar or know what somatic healing is, can you just give us a little definition of what that is?
It is body-based trauma therapy that works with the autonomic nervous system. And it's under the premise that often the trauma that we hold in our bodies is because we've been activated into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, but we haven't been able to actually complete the cycle. And so that is housed in different ways, and sometimes they're not related. We may not realize that driving down a certain road is related to something that happened when you were 3. So it's helping to complete that cycle so that you're not as activated, you're aware of what's happening in your body, and just really helps you build this relationship with your body again, because oftentimes when we've been through trauma, we have this disconnection or this break in self and how we show up in our body, how we show up as ourselves.
Going back to anger, I know there's been times in my life, and even with some clients, I have seen waves of anger, and they've had to learn how to like go through that. I know you mentioned not living from a place of anger, but I think there's a lot, even changes can create anger, like a change of a living environment, a change in a career. How can anger be healthy, and how can we almost like invite anger to be present within ourselves to allow us to move forward?
I'll just speak from personal experience.
Yeah.
Like, went through a horrible experience, and in that experience, someone said to me, "You'll never amount to anything." Like, that was like how to cap it off. Like, did horrible things, and by the way, it'll never amount to anything. And my response was like, "Watch me." And I went and I did everything, and I did it twice. You know what I mean? Like, I used it as fuel and tried to shift it into something that was positive. You know, like like, you don't know me, you can't judge me. Like, I feel your rage and like, whatever, I'm done with you. Here's how I'm going to use that energy that you gave me and allow it to power me through something good. So, and then that ran out. And then I was like, oh, okay, got that.
No, it's funny that you bring it up like that because there's been times when I used to water ski competitively, we'll be like the lakes that we competed at were out in the farmland in eastern Washington, and we'd be at the end of the day, so the guys would be like, I need to get angry so we can ski well tomorrow. Like there's like we would like entice each other so much sometimes because that anger does fuel you sometimes to do that very
Yeah, I think it just gives you a different perspective. I think that's what it did for me. Is I was like, I could let this ruin me. I could let like those words and those actions were so hateful that there are a lot of people in this world that would be like, all right, I'm going to pack it in because I never want to come up against that again. And I was like, nope, I'm not going to let it break me because they're going to win. I'm going to go and I'm going to continue to do the things that I wanted to do. And I'm going to be that much better. Like, what is it? The best revenge is the life well lived. That was where I was at. You know, I'm just going to keep pushing forward. I'm just going to keep doing the things that I want to do. And it just helped to fuel that.
I'm curious. I know you're asking the questions, Anna, but I'm just really curious how to differentiate between using anger to fuel you to move forward and then using that anger and self-loathing or holding it within.
I think that's a really good question to realize. I think anger, you have to realize when you're angry about something, you're passionate about it. Like you want, at least when I go back to my mind of like when I used to always speak competitively, like I wanted to speak because I knew I had the capability of progressing to whatever level I was looking towards at that time. And moments or things that didn't allow me to, like one example, someone didn't give me the right flow point when I was skiing in a competition right before regional. I was furious because my points were down because of that. So I think there's anger can be different to answer your question. I think anger, you have to recognize when the anger, you get angry about something that you're passionate about. Like you'll get angry at something when someone hurts or harms your kid. Like you protect things that you most value. So like with your story, you valued yourself so much, you allowed yourself to feel that anger to progress yourself.
And like my dream.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you are trying to jeopardize through your words and actions my thing. And I was just like, oh no, like I'm not a mama, but it was Mama Bear.
Yeah. So I think what can be tricky about anger is when we do self-harm. And I think that's going back to similar to some of the work that you do, because there has been times in my life where I did an exercise that was I probably shouldn't have done. That was too much on my body at the time, realizing that it was stemming from something else, like wanting to get that approval or that atta girl from my dad, or something like that. So I think you have to, there's a different emotion or a different root, if I can say it that way, with anger.
Level of awareness.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's that anger of passion, but there's their anger too. And recognizing the difference, I think, can be very tricky. I think when anger is out of protection for something, it's out of that love and passion. When anger can be very deadly, I think it's when we don't allow the mourning of something that we have lost. And I think you mentioned earlier that loneliness and allowing us to really mourn the lonely parts of it. Does that answer your question? That's great. Yeah, you can answer questions too. Anything else?
I just like what you were saying about anger as fuel. I think that's a really great way to look at it. It's like it is like lots of energy with tons of potential, and it just needs to be like utilized and like directed in a really like positive way.
definitely not inward.
Yeah, yeah. And I think like to tie it all together, what we were talking about earlier, there's one where you're like, you're not knowing and you just keep stuffing it down, right? Mm-hmm. That bubbles out, that feels like bad, like anger. You're not recognizing those things as they pop up in your life or why you're feeling the way you're feeling. And, you know, in my life, that has led to things like depression or anxiety or, you know, things that bubble up and I'm like, I have no idea why I'm feeling this. And like, really? But then other things where it was like an acute moment of getting hurt, getting angry, and then deciding to pivot and like do something different, you know? So I think, you know, like the work that you do with people and like in somatic healing probably helps so much with those like unresolved things that you might not even know about. They're buried deep in the body.
We're just labeling. I think as a society, we think anger is bad.
Right.
Don't be angry.
Yeah.
Shove your anger
Yeah.
down and smile. And anger is just one of many things that we all experience at different points.
Mm-hmm.
I think like for women especially, like that's an emotion that isn't pretty and gets shut down, I think is not acceptable for a woman to feel and express anger. And oftentimes like I've had a hard time even recognizing like when I'm angry or that I'm angry, I think I'm sad or I'm frustrated or something that's not actually what it is.
And when we can't openly acknowledge and say, I'm angry, then there's shame and guilt and all of these other things that get tied into it because of these stories and these labels that we.
I know for myself, there's been like the morning aspect of anger. I've talked about this a lot at the beginning of the show of breaking glass and how like sometimes glass is kind of shattered within my life of like plate dropping and realizing either I have really mourned that aspect of my life. And the more in tune I have been within my own eating practice, like when I'm really angry or really sad, like I'll go for food for comfort. But it's that concept of like, I need to break something. There's that concept of like, I need to have this release almost. And then I guess this goes back into like the physical aspect of wanting and mourning in a way that's very physical. And I know, again, in our society, like that aspect is not very looked upon at all. Do you have anything to add about like the breaking glass or like that concept of like I'm angry because this broke me in a way that I never thought it would?
I love just the physical. I'm with you. I like being physical.
Yeah.
Anger and a lot of the other like grief, it can be really big, powerful, full of so much energy and momentum behind it. Mm-hmm. So I have been in spaces where I had to get physical in order to really work through and release all of that had been bound up within. Yeah, I'm like, go to the gym, let's like break shit and like I'm all about it.
100%. Like, I totally love and light also a good stuff. And I think that like, and I physically exert myself. Like I've taken a really hard, boxing class or lifted some heavy weights. That's when I can like get underneath the anger and actually kind of see like it for what it is and like what has been, accumulating and created this overall feeling. And that's something I can work with. Like, we started our session today by dancing.
Yeah.
That has been like hugely therapeutic for me. Like I went through a divorce last year and it was boxing and dance turfs that like got me through it.
And I think there's sometimes for mourning, it's too soon to speak of it. And we just gotta feel it and move through it, like physically move through it. I know there's been many times in my life and even with the clients that I work with, like you don't have to think about it. You can just move through it and it's making you feel weird. Like that's people like sometimes the only thing I ask to speak. you to hear your story. If
I
you
love
want
when you say that. Yeah. I don't always need to know your
Yeah.
story about your trauma in
Yeah.
order to help heal and work through
exactly.
it. I've had clients where I don't know what happened to them.
Yeah.
They
Mhm.
never spoke about
Yeah.
it. They hinted at it.
Yeah.
But at the end of our time together, they are totally different and
Mhm.
they've been able to work through it. And I have no idea. I don't need to know.
Yeah. And I think that's people who are here helping improve other people within the physical body is just helping, making sure we can get them from point A to point B. And however the journey goes is that they kind of determine that, I believe. So just like how much they're willing to let us in. And we just, my goal again, just like you said, is get them to point B.
Yeah. Also, on Lake City Way, there's a place called
Yes.
Reita
I've been wanting to go to this.
where you can just like snatch all the things.
We should have a play date.
Oh my gosh. But you know what? No, like I hear you, right? Like anger is not pretty, and our society is like you're a B if you like, oh, you're too sensitive. Oh, you're too whatever. So even going into this place, Rage Industries, little shout out. I go in,
We'll put it in the show notes.
and they're like, here's like a little like milk crate. You can pick out the things you want to smash. And they're like, ooh. And then I was like, oh well, like I'll be timid, the small things, just put a couple things in there. And then I'm like putting on a full bodysuit and like a helmet, and I'm like, this is silly. It'll be done in like 2 minutes. I have this, like a half an hour in there. Like a half an hour.
List of places to go.
And I came out and I was like, I am not a violent person. Like I'm a catch and release the spiders from my house kind of person, but it was so good with these like inanimate objects, to just let off some steam in a way that I felt was like acceptable and private, and nobody was like, you're throwing that like a girl, you know what I mean? Like it was no judgment, and that felt awesome to let it go. But same thing at my gym. I've just been in there boxing for an hour, until I'm like so tuckered out and let off all that steam, so then I could just be with my thoughts. But I mean, you could do the same thing in yoga. Like take a yoga class and then sit for meditation, be with yourself that way. So it doesn't have to be throwing.
It is true because
That's a bonus.
Yeah, a bonus. I've been rear-ended a couple of times 2 years ago and everything, and I think for yoga that's like the only way I've been able to find release through my anger is because I can't work off the same intensity that I can, because then I just trigger more injuries. So I think you bring up a really good point. Like, it doesn't have to be the typical type of anger to release. I know a lot of times I have to go for like hours for a walk. That's it. Like just whatever is able to get that. I don't even know what you want to call that fuel or that energy out. So you're not taking it out on other people. It's so vital for yourself.
Communication.
Yeah.
I am totally, so my partner and I, we've had so many times where we've had an argument, and then I recognize I'm angry, and I'll just leave.
Yeah.
And so for me, I just need that.
Yeah.
And I'll just be gone for hours. And so we had to have communication because he's like, I didn't know if you were coming back. And I'm like, no, I'm coming back. And I just like grab my stuff and I leave. But it's because that's how I needed to process. But I also needed to have that communication with him. I'm angry and I'm not ready to talk about it right now. I need to go process. Yeah. And then go walk for however long I need to. Sometimes it's hours.
Yeah.
And then I have my thoughts together and I can come back and articulate it. But sometimes in the heat of these emotions, the anger, the hurt, the guilt, or whatever, it's sometimes the language part of our brain, especially if it's triggered a past trauma, it literally will shut down. And so we can't articulate our point until we're able to calm down and ground and be in place.
I think like what you're speaking to for me is clarity, right?
Yeah.
So like we need to kind of move through some of like the chaos and the clutter that can come up within anger and like how our body processes that before we can actually like be our most like logical selves and be able to piece apart like, okay, well, this actually came from this person and that's mine, and that was from when I was 5, and like, okay, now we can talk.
I thought I forgave that, and now it's back again. Okay, yeah.
Do you think the clarity aspect that you just brought up is also true for the grieving process?
Can you elaborate?
Yeah, so like there's times where like I can't even articulate the sadness that I'm going through, and so I have to go and ground myself. I started through yoga practice or journaling, just breath work or that walk aspect, and then I get clarity of why is that wave of emotion, and being able to voice like, this is why I'm in this like melancholy state. Do you find that to be true as well with the sadness, along with anger?
Totally. I mean, I think like our bodies hold so much wisdom for us, and like we can't always access it just by sitting there and thinking about it, right? Like a lot of times we actually just have to stop thinking about it and do something different with our bodies, and it will come when it's ready to come. Like that clarity comes in its own time. Like there are tools and practices that I think we all know about that can help us and that we can reach for, but yeah, it's not going to show up until it's show up. That's my experience.
Yeah, no, and I think that's what you bring up is the practice of honoring our body, not rushing for us to get to the answers or to that end point of like, I should be here by now, but just really honoring the process of where we're at throughout that healing process, even if it's that physical stuff.
Yeah, and like allowing for ebb and flow. Like organic beings are not linear. Like as much as I would like that in my type A personality, like that's not how it goes. And like grief is like that, anger is like that, forgiveness is like that. Like it's gonna show up in different ways at different times. And I think like tying in what we talked about the practice of mindfulness is so key in order to be able to show up for ourselves really well as it continues to ebb.
I was going to add, because we haven't talked about it yet, but I think that there is value in creating some sort of a practice where we are making space for ourselves, whether that's a morning practice, which I think you have, like
Sometimes
sitting down,
it's
journaling, having coffee, like just creating space. And you may not have a revelation every day, or maybe even, every month, but like just creating for your space a brave, receptacle for all of those thoughts or things to kind of come to you. I think there's great value in that. And sometimes stuff bubbles up, and it comes out in those moments. And I find that I'd rather it come out in that moment than like being triggered by a client's pain and then talking about it, or
Standing in line at the grocery store.
Yes. I just read the cover of In Style and like it touched me. Yes, exactly that. So it's like building in time and space. Just because, even if it doesn't bring like miraculous things into your life or whatever, just creating that, I think, is like an act of grace and love for ourselves.
With no expectations.
Yeah.
I know for many years I had my morning coffee with this expectation of this is what I'm getting out of it. I'm doing this because this is my foundation and this is what helps me connect to me, and I don't need to get anything out of it just other than being in this.
Yeah. And if you did need like a very specific goal that you're accomplishing.
My very specific is that at the end of this, my body will have coffee in it. And we'll have coffee. How about you?
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I can work this for myself. It's preventative, right? It's preventative self-care. Like, it doesn't have to be like
treating something that's wrong, or like again, like having a big manifestation every time. Like I'm showing up because by showing up, I'm just taking better care. I think that can be.
Yeah. Well, and even I think we mentioned this before, of like being that mindful or like that meditation practice brings you into that present moment. And so, even for clients who are able to practice that meditation, they're able to be present for themselves, for their family, for their coworkers. It just allows more of that full awareness in that moment. And I know for myself, those moments, when I have had that morning meditations or the evening practices, I can definitely tell by the end of the week, I'm like, cool, just happened to be like, versus being that proactive aspect. So I think it's beneficial for everyone, not just for people who work with other people and improving their health. I think it's that as a little builds or allows, I guess the word that comes to my mind is so much harmony almost within the self to be really present.
Yeah. I used to be, way back when, don't judge me, a person who would like set the alarm clock for like the very last second and then like fly out of bed, and then everything was happening to me, at me. Like, why is this not working? And my coat just got stuck on the door. And then like I get in the car and I'm like, it's on empty. And then I was like, why am I doing this or causing this to myself? So I think that having some sort of a buffer in the morning or whatever time of day you want to have it, where you just get to build that time in for yourself, is really beneficial. But I also believe, I think we talked before about it's not all or nothing.
Yeah.
It's not all or nothing. Like there are varying degrees of like self-care and what that can look like for people.
Forgiveness being one.
Yes! Grace, forgiveness. Yeah.
Grace and forgiveness for ourselves when we don't show up for that self-care time.
That's huge.
Yeah, there can be some kind of funny things that can happen around rigidity and expectations, and then that can spiral into guilt and all sorts of things that are very counterproductive.
So we do show up, only it doesn't look like what we thought.
Yeah. 100%.
Awesome. Well, we're going to be wrapping it up, but I'm going to ask one final question from each of you, and that is, where do you think forgiveness lives within the body?
I don't know that there's a blanket answer. I think forgiveness lives wherever you allow it to live in your body. For some people, that may be neck, shoulders, throat. For some, it may be in their gut. Some it may be in their back. It really just depends on the person. Heart.
I don't think I can answer that any better.
Yeah.
You just did. Pretty much the same. I think it can live anywhere and everywhere that there's space for it and it's being invited.
Yeah, I'd have to go with that too. I mean, I think like our pain body lives so many different places, and maybe forgiveness lives for you in the place where you were hurt.
I would have to echo off of that. I think that's wherever we internalize that hurt within our body. So it's really interesting having another guest on this year compared to last year in their answers, and they all talk more about where forgiveness lives in their body versus what they think of the general population is to their story and how they were hurt, but also how they were through this process of forgiveness. And it's really interesting how it's been through different parts of the body with that. So, anything else you guys would like to share as we end this?
Thank you so much for doing this. It's great.
Fun.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah. Thank you. You may find us at, what's that place called?
Rage Industry.
Rage Industry.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you could do like a live video for me.
Well, Strong Winds, if you are watching live, thank you so much for the support. If you're listening, thank you as well. You can watch the live video down in the show notes, and then we will have everyone's website in the show notes, along with the Rage Industry, that place. It can be a little off maker. This is also kicking off the Mind Mobility. Tomorrow is the first day. I may bring it out to Wednesday so we can get a little bit more time to sign up. Mind Mobility is all about learning how to use the Live Well Round yoga therapy balls that Betsy has designed, but at the same time creating stability within our joints. So not only are we opening up, but we're creating strength with that. And then along with that, you will be getting, and so you'll get that in the like how-to videos. And then from there, you'll get daily emails from me of what does it mean to have that open mindset through this process of forgiveness and the interconnection between our mind and body. That may start tomorrow, most likely on Wednesday. The link is in the bio, so make sure you sign up. Other than that, thank you again for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it out with your family and friends. And to help grow the show, give us a 5 stars and comment